Hi there, I'm Danny Flexen and welcome to the first edition of 2022 for ReFLEXions, which we do every Monday at 4:30 p.m. Usually talking about the boxing action of the weekend just gone, but as it's January and particularly this year, with the Board of Control in the UK suspending all tournaments for the remainder of this month, I'm going to be talking about more general topics for the next few weeks. And for this one, we did a video over the weekend, which hopefully you've already seen, recounting the timeline with the Dillian Whyte, Tyson Fury saga and how we got to where we are. When we filmed that video, there were purse bids scheduled for this Tuesday, the 11th of January. Those have now been extended by the World Boxing Council until a week later, the 18th, so next week, Tuesday. See you next Tuesday, if you like. With the hope that the two teams involved can come to some sort of agreement during negotiations, and with Whyte's arbitration and appeal towards the WBC about the purse split still ongoing. So just for a recap, or a much quicker one than the video that's on the channel, but in case you haven't seen it, Whyte feels that and his team feel that as the WBC interim champion, he should be entitled to 45% of any purse should the fight go to BIDS, which is in the WBC's rules for the interim champion. On the flip side, Tyson Fury's team and co-promoters Bob Arum and Frank Warren have been quite vocal about this. They believe the split should be 80-20 in favour of the WBC champion, Tyson Fury, largely based on the last purses for either fighter, something that is used to decide the purse splits in exceptional circumstances. Doesn't happen very often, but has happened in the past. There is precedent for it. And obviously Dillian Whyte's last fight, purse-wise, doesn't compare to Tyson Fury's third fight with Deontay Wilder, from which he made an absolute stack of cash. But basing it just on those last two fights does seem rather fortuitous for Tyson Fury, but the WBC did agree to this and put it out and confirmed around a week ago now that it would be 80-20. Dillian Whyte's team appealing this, and the appeal's still going through. So I guess they'll hope that in the week between now, the free negotiation period, until next week, Tuesday the 18th, that appeal is upheld and the purse split is changed something more in line with what they're hoping for. I guess for them, Dillian Whyte's been criticised in the past for pulling out of eliminators, and also for notably turning down a title shot against Anthony Joshua when he was still unified champion, thinking that he could build himself into a bigger attraction and thus demand more money as things went on. Not entirely, crazy thought, because he was a Sky Sports box office headliner a number of times after rejecting that offer to face Joshua, so has grown into a bigger attraction. Whether that translates into him getting a big purse for the Fury fight remains to be seen. But he will hope that he gets more on offer, because he doesn't want to pull out of the fight against Fury, having waited as the WBC #1 for so long, and the mandatory, for a while before he lost to Povetkin, and then regained that distinction, or at least the #1 spot, after the rematch victory over Povetkin. So he won't want to pull out of this shot now. He genuinely feels he can beat Fury, and he doesn't want it to look like he's backing out of the fight or pricing himself out. But the WBC mandate of 80-20 does seem to make it very difficult for him to make a decent amount of money on what is a huge fight. A lot of people out there on social media are saying, well, Whyte should back himself. Take the short end of the purse now, but should he beat Fury, rematch down the road, rematch with AJ down the road, Usyk, of course, for undisputed perhaps. These are all huge, lucrative fights in Dillian Whyte's future should he pull off the upset. So maybe he should back himself to do so by taking the small money now. I understand that, but this is his source of income. He is a fighter, he's a prize fighter, this is what he does for a living. So it's easy to kind of sit on the sidelines and say, back yourself, It's a fight, and especially in heavyweight boxing, one punch can change everything. Fury's looked damn near unbeatable in the last couple of years. And Whyte's got to be thinking of his future and his family, and also what's right. No one wants to be disrespected, and for most people out there, I think common sense would dictate he does deserve more than 20% of the purse split, regardless of what they earned for their last fights. I don't think that's the only thing the purse split should be based on. On Tyson Fury's side, he's kind of sitting pretty if the WBC change their views and make it 70-30, for example, or 60-40, he'll still do pretty well out of the fight, and I don't think he'll vacate the WBC title rather than fight Dillian Whyte. Frank Warren, in an interview I did a few weeks ago, said that there's no way Fury will vacate. They're still planning, Fury's team, to have him out on March 26th, either in the UK or the US. There's been names mentioned, the likes of Andy Ruiz Jr., Robert Helenius. I think Ruiz Jr. would be in the US, probably not going to happen, but Helenius more likely to take place over here. Just as a kind of marking time fight for Fury, keep him busy. We've seen in the past where he has been known to have issues through inactivity and, devil making work for idle hands, if you like. So he wants to be out regularly, and while this Dillian Whyte stuff's still going on. But then if a deal is reached in the next week, maybe that plan could still be scuppered, and Fury would end up fighting Whyte next, although it wouldn't be on March 26th, of course. It would be later on, April or May time. So yeah, that's the kind of the latest update on that. And I think it's right that Dillian Whyte has time for his appeal to be heard before the final purse offers are put in. And I would hope the WBC come to some sort of compromise on the purse split. If they don't, I would hope the teams, before the purse bids are asked for, come to an arrangement between themselves. And if anything, this does put Fury's team in a strong negotiating position, because they can say to Whyte, look, we'll make it 70-30 if you don't go to purse bids. And then that ensures that they have it on their show, their broadcasters, ESPN in the US, BT here, rather than go to a purse bid situation. Matchroom could win, Sky Sports and Boxer could win, and then it ends up out of their control. They're not promoting the huge event, someone else is, and it will be a massive gate. It'll be a massive TV viewership as well. And BT, as the people behind Fury, don't want to lose control of that. And the 80-20 purse split, as it stands now, gives them the opportunity to get Whyte at maybe a smaller price than they would have, knowing that Whyte's got he's between a rock and a hard place, if you like. He can fight on Fury's show for, say, 30%, or he can let it go to purse bids, and yeah, he might get a few other things in his favour, but he'll have to take 20%. That's if his appeal isn't upheld and the purse splits aren't changed. So at the moment, with a kind of week to negotiate, they're in a pretty strong position. But I still think the fight gets done, and I'm happy to be proved wrong about that, but I just think Fury's not going to vacate, and Whyte's not going to pull out of a position he's worked so hard to get to. And both really feel they can win the fight. So hopefully, keep everything crossed, it will come together. But we'll keep you updated on this story as we go. But yeah, as ReFLEXions goes on, at least until we get to February, I think there'll be a lot more general stuff rather than looking back on specific fights, because there aren't many fights that really grip the interest, certainly none in this country until February. Thanks very much for watching. Leave your comments below and I'll respond to some of them as per usual. Happy New Year to everyone that watches, and I look forward to seeing you all again next week, 4:30 PM for ReFLEXions, and this Thursday at the same time for FlexSpectations. Cheers, and I'll see you all soon.